Hey guys, this is Tina B.
And Charmaine G.
We're here to talk about the messiness of life. It's ugly.
And it's raw.
It's real.
And it's a freaking game.
It's whack-a-mole.
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 This is us.
And our gift to you.
All right, our wackos. Here we are, episode number 2. As you just heard, I feel like we should represent ourselves and our audience and our followers as freaking wackos. That's why one of the reasons why we chose the name Whack-A-Mole.
It is. We could give them a choice. They could be wackos or they could be moles.
Or whackers. Or
you pick.
You know what?
Molies, molios.
Holy molio. So with that being said, I think the trend is going to be wacko for me. I feel wacko
so
half the time.
I do too. I just don't want it to be too much of a label. I don't want anybody to feel bad about themselves.
Don't claim it. I mean, it's a claim to fame, actually, to be honest with you. When we're all reserved and we're not ourselves and we're experiencing that life, it'll swallow us whole. So in behind the scenes, whenever you do get to be your true self, we're freaking wackos.
Totally.
Wackos. Okay,
Totally.
So last episode we talked about the who, what, why, when, and where, and how. I feel like we could have probably polished that up a little bit. But throughout time, you'll get to know who is Tina B, who is Charmaine G.
Yes.
And the reason why we're doing this is because life is a freaking shit show. The highs, the lows, the bumps, the scrumps. Is scrumps a word?
I don't think so, but you're good at making up words.
Yeah, I'm going to do that a lot, actually.
I know. I'm counting on it.
So with that being said, we just want you to share in all of our experiences, but share yours as well. So we do have a website that's being built, and it's going to have your own little portal that you're going to be able to go in and just present who you are. And we'd love, if you do, full disclaimer, that we get to use your information. Not information, but your life events. We get to talk about you on there, and we'd love to get to meet you.
Oh, absolutely.
Virtually.
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
Virtually.
Yes, we are about the people.
Yes, we are. All right. So when we ended last episode, wait. We're going to start the shows with traditions.
Yes.
Yeah.
The world mole.
Okay, so remember we referenced to moles as life. Like we want to whack life, put fires out every day. Like how many fires did you put out today?
A few.
Yeah.
I said a couple too.
Did you?
I did.
I think we have that power. You are very powerful to do that. With that being said, the world mole, because we all live in it, and there's a lot freaking going on.
There are so many. The whole scene right now is just a big game of whack-a-mole. I mean, look, it started with, well, it didn't start. I shouldn't say it started, but we've got a lot of racism and protests going on.
Rioters.
We've got oh my gosh, we've got rioters, we've got protesters, rioters, and then we've got really violent people that are really wreaking havoc in cities in our nation.
And that's their way of seeking justice, you know.
Yes.
I'm all for justice, but when it turns into murder...
Oh my goodness.
And
the destruction of people's lives and the things that they've built, and just the not caring and that apathy about and respect for other people's property and their things and their feelings and what they're putting into their life is just, it's gone too far. So there's that. There's the lefty righty thing, because that's a big deal.
Blue, red,
it's an election
Dems,
year.
Republican.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And every election year, I lose a good 10 friends on Facebook.
Oh, it is known that what are the things that you don't bring to the kitchen table or in your life?
Politics,
religion, money,
and abortion. Abortion's a tough one too.
Abortion that's politics.
Yes.
I mean, to be honest with you, you're absolutely right. We've got the world's on fire with racism, with an injustice.
California's on fire, literally, with like over 100 wildfires right now.
And you know what? They're damaging and destruction, but there's so much bailout money that's going like crazy. It's almost feeling like we're just going to keep piling it on. These stimulus
Let's not forget
packages.
about COVID. And that's changing every single day. And, our kids going to school with having to wear masks. Which, by the way, my daughter hasn't complained about wearing a mask.
Really?
Have your kids?
Mine did. And
Really?
mine didn't at first. They were stellar. They were golden. And then all of a sudden, Sunday night before school started, Myra cried over the phone and said, I can't breathe. And it literally jerked me because I didn't have control. I felt like, am I prepared to be a homeschooler again, a teacher, which I know I was not born that way. I know God said, you are not to be a teacher. I have no patience. I outsource them to other people
But
that
we're
can
so
provide
busy
that
doing all this
education.
other stuff. Not that our kids aren't important, but when this came along, it was just like, okay, now you need to put like all of this other stuff over here because your kids need you to now teach them.
Yeah.
Which is a huge job. I mean, that's a big deal.
More
to
than
do
one
that right.
kid.
Oh my
You
goodness.
become 5 teachers overnight.
That's why people go to school for that.
That's true. And I hats off, clap, clap, clap.
Big time to our teachers.
To our education system to be able to gear up remote learning opportunities as fast as they could. In addition to the mental health, the psychology world with addiction and substance use, to be able to have access to services, telehealth. I can't begin to express, we weren't prepared enough. We work in the justice system. And with that being said, we see the courts, everything was highly affected when it came to the pandemic, not being prepared with protocol. Some did, some didn't. I call it the ghost pandemic. And I'm okay to get hate mail on this one. I am, just because.
Address it to Charmaine G.
Charmaine G. To be honest with you, I'm very respectful of people's views, and I feel like it should be returned. When I have a concern, I very rarely speak up because I feel like there's enough going on that I just want to be able to maintain on those heightened stages. But I very rarely speak up until it affects my children.
Yeah. I love that you have a lot of regard for the political forum and the standing that you have in our community. And I have one too on a different level. But I feel like the street fighter in me got me to that place. Yeah. So I'm still going to use that street fighter in me to express how I feel about things.
You have to have both sides, don't you think?
Yeah, it's just, the mask thing and kids going to school, everybody has an opinion about it. And what's starting to happen now, there's like this trend. Now everything's a protest.
Yes.
Everything's like, let's go march. And you know what? That's the American
point across by standing there and
the
picketing.
American way, I suppose.
Speaking of which,
we could
our
go
world
on
mole
and on.
happened here locally. I mean, we live in a population, with a lot of snowbirds. It's kind of like the secondary Palm Springs down here. Mm-hmm. Everybody from California wants to move here now just because their state's a shit show. But with that, I can tell you, we had our local law enforcement got notification that a riot group, a picketing group, potentially was going to come and cause damage to our businessmen and our local businesses.
City, yeah.
And we've got a very conservative, strong, constitutional based community membership here that believe in gun rights. They believe in their liberties, and they manned up. That's all I got to say is, with the threat saying we're taking 6 multiple buses down there loaded full of people, Antifa, BLM, and all of those, they were welcome. They were not at all. But if it got into violence or any type, that we were prepared for protection. And I say we because Tina was down there.
I was down there. It was my birthday that day. And we were coming home from dinner and I was like, what's going on right here? And I had heard about it.
Yeah.
But we've had a couple of protests in St. George and they're very peaceful usually. And then they just kind of die right down. This was huge. And so I was like, and it was right in front of the building where we work. So I was like, let's go home and get our tennis shoes on. And we did. And we grabbed an American flag. And there were people down there, practicing their Second Amendment rights. And,
both sides.
And both sides. And they were peaceful. But the people that came down there protecting our city became a much bigger crowd than the original BLM people that put the protest on.
And the originator was that they were welcoming and they were wanting to be prepared if there was ever going to be a need to protect our city. So I'd like to thank all of our local law enforcement and their contribution, everyone that came down to express their views. And it's with intent. It was with passion. People really believe, and you don't discredit that.
No,
so I mean, it's a two-way conversation. It always should be. So I again encourage that as long as it's peaceful.
And it was peaceful. It was, the spirit there was really just about America. I mean, there was, totally. There was a lot of people that were that were, with the Trump and with, and then a lot of people who were like, no, not Trump. Yeah. And, it was a lot of rednecks. I will say that. But
wait, did you just stereotype? Are we not allowed to talk like that anymore? Go
sorry.
Dixie, go Dixie.
We're in Utah. So, but there was that big presence. The biggest thing there, the energy was just about, we're kind of all in this thing together. That was the feeling that I got, is that it was about America. This is the United States of America. We're in an election season, and we're practicing our right to come out and talk and stand up for what we believe in. It was really cool. It was, and my kids came. My girls, who have their own, on their own, because of research that they've done, they have their own their own political views.
Yeah, they're understanding. And they're in, hats off, they're in high school.
One's
and
in high
so
school,
strong-minded to have a core belief in something and to go in and represent themselves. What an honor, Mom.
Beyond the trend.
You did that. You did that.
We're not completely alone.
By example, for sure.
Yes.
So we are going to start off with the World Life events every episode, and then lead into our topic, which I think we hooked and baited by that last ending, saying we're going to talk about sex. What do you think about sex? Like, it could be everything from the physical side of it, which who doesn't like that? Don't put that comment that I said earlier, because
there's that. But when we were discussing, and Sean, you were actually here when we were discussing this last year, Sean D. We were talking about conditioning,
sexual conditioning.
Yes, how we grew up. I have about a decade on you, so I was younger. Right. I was born in the 60s. 70s was kind of my growing up decade. It was very impressionable for me. And 80s was, of course, that was high school. I turned 18, became an adult. But growing up back east in an Italian Roman Catholic family that I was born into, oh my gosh, there was so much that, first of all, we didn't talk about sex. Like that word didn't even come up. My mom had a much more liberal view about that. My father, very old school. We had to wear shorts that were Bermuda length, but they weren't even in style. And my mom used to, when we would go outside to play, we'd be in the hallway and she'd go, just roll them up. And then I'd do that. And then one day I saw my dad cruising down the road and I rolled them right back down. But it was things like that. It was things like phrases, act like a lady.
Yeah.
You
can't date till you're 16. Well, were you 16, 18? The culture's different out here because I grew up in the Midwest too. And when I relocated out here, I'm raising children out here now. So I'm acclimating to the culture and the belief system. And some of it is cultivated because of the religion, the primary religion. And in addition to like my upbringing, there's some values that I want to carry with me, but I'm almost in a shelter shock on how to connect with my kids because I want to break that cycle. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I had that same desire with my children.
Yeah.
Though we grew up vastly different, you and I.
We did. I was in a bubble.
And I was not. I was just forbidden to really venture too far. And the thing wasn't, when you say bubble, it's more like there were structure and there were rules behind what you could and could not do.
Sure.
For me, there were rules but there wasn't a lot of structure. It was just don't do it. And if you do, then
you're in trouble.
I'm
going to beat the shit out of you.
Totally.
Right.
So this has been my big thing. And it came up so big with me when I was raising, I have daughters. You have one of each gender. And we have this God-given hormonal thing that happens to us when we're young. We're not 18. Totally. I mean, stuff starts to change in our body. There's a chemical thing that goes on. There's the scientific side of it. There's like the really fun side of it. And all of this stuff is going on. And I have to believe that that's God-given. It didn't just happen to me and nobody else, or just every fifth person. This is a human thing.
It really is.
Why do we have it?
If
we're not allowed.
You want me to tell you what I was taught? I can tell you what I was taught.
We're just...
honestly, there is a physical aspect to sex. But then there's also a psychological aspect to it.
Okay.
And I believe that all of our upbringings, be it about conditioning, sex, boy-girl gender, you wear pink, you man up and fight the boys and brawl, and, those things that we're taught at a young age, start that. And then we have exposure, different experiences with our peers. I learned a lot more with my peers than I did with my parents. And then I almost got mad at my parents because I felt like I wanted to shock them, and just like push that.
Or they were keeping you from something fun. That was my thing.
Like, hey mom, what's a boner? And so it would, don't talk about that. That's the kind of home that I grew up in. But now it's different. I think the world's evolved, with my parents especially, and they just meant well. They really wanted to give me like a value system that wasn't about the physical side of sex. There is differences between, full on sex, intimacy and sex, or full on pornography. Ones that create the objective view of a person, because that's very easy, because that whole time that all those three scenarios drive chemicals in our body. They literally create an increased testosterone level, dopamine level, and our miracles of our brain can remember that. And we're like, oh, that pleasure sensor, we're just going to hit that tab button.
Oh my gosh, that's where drugs come in. I mean, when that's that whole endorphins, that whole rush of, and then there's the whole infatuation piece that doesn't even really have too much to do with sex. It's just,
it doesn't, it's almost like almost skipped,
you get strung out on that. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that. But still my question, and I haven't asked too many people this, but I really want to know, and other people's opinions, and I don't think that anybody has the right answer. But why do we get those feelings when we're going through puberty and our body is changing on such a strong level, and society tells us that we can't act on that? Why is that?
I think it all is about the culture brought in the home, because that's where I learned, which I didn't learn. I will admit, and I have been diagnosed with sexual immaturity.
Who gave you that diagnosis?
Jeff Ford,
do you have a prescription
he's
for
an
that?
LMFT here in town. And that was identified when I was 41 years old.
Okay.
Because I tend to not have the opportunity to have the intimate part of intimacy, because not only like our bodies changing, like my son, he's 11. I don't remember when I started developing. I do remember hemorrhaging. I thought I was hemorrhaging, because my mom never talked to me about my bodily change, nor did health class at that time.
So you were just out there flailing.
Yeah,
on your
I'm
own.
like, oh my gosh, coach, I'm dying. I'm hemorrhaging in the bathroom during halftime at the soccer game. And he's like, get in here, Ruts, in my white Umbros. Sorry about that, everybody. With that being said, I can tell you why we do that is because I believe that our bodies are, God-given beings to be able to procreate, to be able to have a connection with another person beyond the emotional aspect, to get it to a higher connection level, and to be able to have babies.
There's that. I mean, there's of course, there's that. There's another
I just
thing
went
that
totally gospel on you, didn't I?
No, well, my upbringing, my own father was like, I did not allow. He told me this as an adult. I mean, literally like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I did not allow your mother to breastfeed you kids because it was disgusting.
What?
Yeah. And I remember, and I breastfed both of my kids, but to him that was like, so Okay,
it was
now
inappropriate.
It was inappropriate.
To have,
I guess it was just not. I don't know. I didn't.
It was a comfort thing for him. It sounds like, because I'm not going to lie to you. If I see a mother, I'm not anti-breastfeeding. I did, but I did it in privacy and dignity because that's where I felt like I needed to feel comfortable to be my child. I was horrible at it. I mean, all over the place, milk, done. Right. But when I see a woman, I tend to look down. I won't make, because I feel like that's her private time. And even if she,
God, that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna go back out of this rabbit hole. Go back to the father telling you.
Yeah, it was just and I was thinking as you were talking that our parents told us that sex was essentially a bad thing or something that we were not.
You should
afforded.
wait till you're married.
You're just not afforded that.
Yeah.
Until you're over there.
Yeah.
Either you've aged out of our home or you've married out of our home. Okay?
Would you get in trouble? Would you get in trouble, like if they knew that you had sex under their roof? I mean, maybe not in their bed, but under their roof.
But kids are freaking doing that anyway. They're doing that anyway. I don't know one. I mean, I've know very few, because I do know one or two. Who, I mean, they're doing that anyway. Yeah. The kids are going to get curious. Either it's going to happen at 13 or they're going to wait until they're 16. That curiosity is still there. Those feelings, the hormones, all that shit, it's all still there. So my thing is, why do we have it? There's that question. And then the other thing with parents is, so you're being told, you're feeling all this stuff. You're not allowed to honor it in any way. And God forbid you should masturbate, because that's not even a thing either. Seriously. We don't even talk about, like, that doesn't even get talked about.
That's subject, because I want to tell you my epiphany and my awakening.
Okay. Sean, you okay, buddy?
That's amazing.
Sean's having a coronary over there.
I've been sleeping.
But this is the other thing. This is the other thing. That parents will tell you not to do it. They don't give you a good, inadequate reason why. And then you're not allowed to talk about it like at all.
Openly.
There's not an explanation for it.
And you don't lose that momentum to where, as an adult, I'm still uncomfortable talking about it. Even sometimes in a safe space, like with my girlfriend and stuff, I'm like, what? Now, I can get raunchy when somebody approaches me, in a sense to where I can actually let loose and let free. But I'll tell you, it's ingrained in me. It's ingrained to where you don't talk about it. I am starting to pass that on to my children. Like, hey, I know you woke up, and what it is, son, it's blood flowing at increased volume in your penis area, and you know. And he's like, "Como?" Yeah. Well, and then we may roll over. Is that okay? Sorry. Okay.
It has to be. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sean.
We'll pay. I have to say, conditioning, they experience that too. You know what I'm saying? It's cyclic. It's very cyclic to where it's in the home, in the environment. Parts of it's biological, you know, with our chemical makeups, but we are conditioned through our organizations that we belong in, church, school activities, or, you know, Girl Scouts, things that really build our belief system, you know. And then all of a sudden, it's almost like, how do I get accepted in this world? And you may have went through this, but I knew from a very young age, by default, by not something that I chose, that I knew I could get attention, a man's attention, with my body. That conditioned the hell out of me.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I mean, this is such a broad subject. And I mean, there's all these different little rabbit holes that we can go down for sure. Or what was the word that Ty said today? We are
tangentiating. We go off on tangents. And
tangential.
The reason why I say
tangential.
That is tangential. We looked it up. It's really a cool word, and we do that all the time. The reason why I say, you know, but those relationships can actually cause it to where you can't have a healthy one later on. And that's
can't experience true intimacy. That's the deal.
I think that's why it was meant sexual immaturity, because they go hand in hand. You know, when you actually have your peers, your beliefs, your cultures, your relationships with other partners, male, female, whatever that looks like for you. I'm all about what works for you. I didn't even, again, immaturity. I don't care. pansexual. Do you know what that is?
That's just whatever. Like you're not gender biased at all, I think.
Yeah, you're just attracted to somebody that makes you feel good and that you're attracted to.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, an attorney from California, female. You know, we were at the Prohibition up in Salt Lake eating dinner, never met her in my life. And she says, this is what I am. And I'm totally attracted to you right now. I'm like, that makes me feel freaking awesome.
That you didn't get uncomfortable?
No. And a lot of it is just because the way she made me feel. Like, it wasn't like I'm coming on to you. It was almost like very human, like,
oh, okay, sure.
You know, like not belittling you, dumb little girl. You don't know this stuff. I that's why I say shelter, because these new things come up all the time. You know, how you identify yourself, how you think. When it comes down to sexual conditioning, that's a pretty big deal because it really builds you as a person. Don't you think?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, it starts with, and it's not even just, it starts with, you know, you're born, and if you're born a girl, then you're daddy's girl. Like a lot of us get that label. I
Mama's
didn't get
boy.
it. But, and then there's the mama's boy. Like what are we doing? What is that about? Yeah. What is shake it off? You're hurt.
Like
the
literally?
Little girl.
I know what that is now.
The little, but the little girl, you know, gets to cry and be held. And the little boy, when I was growing up, the little boy was like, we're not doing that.
Yeah, stop crying.
Stop, knock it
up.
off, shake it off, and just you're done. Like you're,
And that gets repeated. I mean, when you're bringing your own
and
children
think that we don't
world.
take that shit into
Sure.
the bedroom?
Yeah. I think we could cover this area like 5 episodes. And one of the things that I think the point that we wanted to get across is that we have lived a life and we experienced limitations and barriers that were caused by others, but we're always going to learn and evolve. But what I want to teach my children, and I am learning even from you and how you raise your kids, that they actually need to explore. They need to feel comfortable with what it is: sex, intimacy, relationships, bond, trust, commitment, even if it is the physical side of it, but it's the emotional side of it.
If I'm subjugating my kids, then that opens the door for somebody else to then do that to them.
Exactly. So I might get all terminology with my 11-year-old, and you should see how others that are in the room react. They're like, oh my gosh, he doesn't get that. He doesn't understand that. And I'm like, he's going to, because I know he's going to learn it from somebody else. So I'm going to say the slang words and I'm going to say the medical words.
Are these people that are part of your village?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
the village. And you know, some of the village I had to, gracefully put in a different box. We'll just put it that way, just because, again, I think we all try to conform and we try to please. And I'm living my second life, my second wind. And I have to say, though, this topic, I'm so glad we went down this way with it, because it is a very special thing and a privilege that we get to have to be able to, I mean, we were born with it. And it's a privilege. It's something that we shouldn't take for granted. And that I do believe that we have the God-given right to learn and always use that privilege. So last but not least, every episode we're going to talk about our own life moles. And we won't go too long, SD. Wait, you know what? Hang on, Tina. We just sprung our all progesterone and estrogen on this conversation. Like,
do you want in?
I need you in. We need a male's perspective because we just look through our lens. Sean.
And we got a guy sitting
believe me,
right
I have a
here.
lot I can contribute, but this is your podcast.
It is, but
Okay?
I'll tell you, I watched you over there going,
You really want Mr. Testosterone guy with more information than you want to hear to share his thoughts,
yes, I
opinions,
want it to be
and
objective.
experiences?
maybe not experiences, because that's rated NR. Is that non-rated?
I want to know what we talked about right here
Yeah.
today that raised a red flag with you.
Yeah.
There was nothing that raised a red flag with me.
Really?
No.
Nothing that you went, oh, I would question that.
No, you're talking about your past. So, yeah, there's obviously, you mentioned those things from your past because they're red flags. Well, you know, my dad said this, my mom said this, whatever. This is how we were raised. But you're at a point now in your life where you're like, okay, I have my awakening. This is how I'm teaching my children. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
You've learned from the mistakes of your parents and trying to fix them.
Yeah.
Just as your children will learn from your mistakes
Right.
and try to teach them.
I agree. With what we talked about in the belief system and, how it's built with our own parents to begin with, do you feel like you were deprived? Can you relate to the mama's boy or the daddy's boy? Which one?
I don't see the mama's boy, daddy's boy thing. Dad was a decent dad. He wasn't over the top. Mom was a very intelligent, wise woman. And so there wasn't a whole lot of come here.
Did you talk about sex openly?
Not a whole lot.
It was
Not
a
really.
private thing?
Yeah, I guess it was something that wasn't spoken of that much.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of my education came upon stumbling upon Dad's drawer. Yeah, it's
You were probably the kid in the neighborhood who had the Playboys.
Yeah. Hey, call Sean here. Open the books.
It was beyond that. I was like, whoa. What is she doing with that snake?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
You know what?
So
HD,
now we know a little bit about
We don't even have
Sean
to go into paper material.
and his dad.
And that right there is a coming of age kind of a concept when you actually get the physical. Whoa, what is that? Were you shocked by that?
I was 7, and looking back, I wish I had not had that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that molded me for a lot of my life, and it obviously it set expectations to an unrealistic level,
Right.
and so.
You know what's interesting is
That is
so
interesting.
my son.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that honesty.
And that is true because it can be shocking to any young person, especially 7 years of age. My son, he was at a friend's house, picked up his older brother's teenage brother's phone, and I'm talking like hardcore video porn. And they stared. He heard the laughs from his friends. He didn't want to look dumb. 7. Okay. And I could say my son's a little bit behind. Not now. He's caught up. But I'm wondering if it got caught up because he was exposed so early. He came home and was like pale, big eyes. And I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And he's like, I don't know what I seen. I don't what does that mean? And he grew into shame. He grew into a shame around me. And I wonder if it was because my reaction. I wonder if it's because I didn't know how to handle that. Because I was mad. I wanted to slow it down. And I wanted to call them. I called the mom and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Da-da-da-da. And she's like, "Oh, boys will be boys." And I thought, I can't protect him from this. And he's seen my reaction and the trust is gone. He went into shame, and then it wasn't the only event. It just got more and more increased
Do you
to
think
where
that it
he
stopped him from wanting to share any more with you?
I do. I know it was. I kept that door open, though. I apologized after I knew that he kept looking, and it caused an arousal. It caused him to be liked by his friends, and they bonded over that. And I can tell you, a lot of that is because of my sexual immaturity. I wish I was better prepared for that event.
See, I look at my situation where I knew at the time I shouldn't, but I did.
Okay.
And I continued to look and continued to look. And then I was caught by Mom.
Oh.
And of course, "They're dads!" That was the reaction. So Mom was fully aware and is like, "Terry, look what Sean found." And then they all disappeared. So then it became a hunt for me. Where in the house are they? So then, every once in a while I would find the stash would be here, or they'd be in this different closet, or it'd be up in the attic. And so it was like a combination of I knew I shouldn't, there was shame, there was hiding, they were hiding, I was hiding.
But it made you feel good.
Yes, it was.
But it was something that you wanted after that. That's all of that is just so, I think as parents, it depends on what our reaction is to our kids.
For sure.
Not just the reaction, but because your reaction was what it was, you realize that, and now you get to do something different.
Yeah, keep
as a
trying to
result
open
of
that door.
So, and I have girls, so my girls are turning to me for
Advice.
and things,
And
periods and menstruation and, and boys and all of that stuff. The one thing I think I hope that I don't, I hope I can say this. It's my experience with my children is that I always told them that their body belonged to them and that they were allowed to,
make the choice.
Mm-hmm. And that if they wanted to, explore that they could. I didn't tell my kids to go out and have sex. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about.
You didn't give them the green light for the red light.
No, I gave them an open door to talk about it.
And that's, I think, in a place where we need to head. I agree. I think sometimes when we cause our own barriers and make things inept, that it is generational. And so I want to carry that torch. So in closing, my life mole, what happened to me this week? Last week, I went under contract on my own house. I'm building my own house.
That's exciting.
My gosh, why am I biting out that freaking chewing tobacco? But today I got Invisalign. Could you hear it this whole time? That's fine. And I keep talking about it because I'm totally fixated on it.
Remember when you tried to take them out earlier?
Yeah, I couldn't. I haven't even eaten today, you guys, because it's embarrassing.
We were trying to get it out with a paper clip.
I had to drink.
I hope your dentist isn't listening to this.
I think they're going to work. But this is my moneymaker. So I got I'm sorry, Tina. Okay, so here's the deal. Tina, what the hell was your week's whack-a-mole? Your mole.
I decided
your personal mole of the
for
week.
My 54th birthday to cleanse.
Whoa.
And I think I've done it before. Briefly, no alcohol, no sugar, no caffeine, no animal products, and no gluten.
What the hell?
And so the last time I did this, I experienced it's from the Quantum Cleanse by Kathy Freston. I just want to say that.
Perfect. We'll put the recipe online. No joke.
She's amazing. And this was a quantum leap for me the last time I did it. It's a 21-day cleanse. And emerging from that, I wish I would not have gone back to doing picking up some of the things I did, especially gluten, because that one's just wrecks my tummy. It hurts.
After you go healthy, it kind of hurts because your body rejects it and it doesn't go well.
And I'm exercising every single day. I've made this commitment to myself to do that. Not that I haven't done that in the past, but I'm postmenopausal.
What?
I like the way that sounds when I go, I'm postmenopausal.
I sweat in ungodly hours at ungodly times.
In places like the top of my legs. Not anymore as much, but I was sweating on my thighs, like the tops of my thighs.
If it's eyelids, then I'd be worried, but.
Well, there was that, and then there was under my eyes, I would sweat. In just the weirdest.
Are you over it? Post, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's good.
But I get a hot flash now and again. And yeah, but no, I'm on a
care
little
of your
bit of a
body.
maintenance.
What's going to happen? Tina and I, we work together and we totally are good friends and everything. Should I be prepared for the caffeine monster headaches and the sugar shock sillies and all that stuff? Are you going to be okay?
No, because without the spiritual aspect of doing that, I couldn't do it. I would just be white knuckling it. And then everybody would need to be like the parting of the Red Sea when I came walking out. And I take moments to myself and take deep breaths and remind myself that I'm experiencing these cravings or a headache and all of that because I'm addicted to these things and I no longer want to be. So
hats off to you.
Thank you.
I can tell you, I can't wait for you guys to get to know Tina B. And this is Charmaine G. We're with Whack-A-Mole Podcast. We're coming at you every Tuesday. We are going to be going live. Right now we're doing recording just to get up and ramping, but that means unedited, regurgitating whatever's coming out of our mouth.
It's just truly going to be live.
Do not hold anything against us. Sean, what platforms are we on so our listeners can take it?
Well, that's going to be more than, let's see. Facebook, Twitter, Podbean, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart, Pandora, Google, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, Radio Republic, Spreaker, Blueberry, Backtracks, Pocket Cast, Acast, Amazon Alexa, and Deezer.
Look at that, guys!
plus or minus 2.
Whack-a-mole Tuesday at 5.
You've been listening to Whack-A-Mole with Tina B and Charmaine G. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Watch us on YouTube and subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Join us next time for, well, whatever may happen with Tina B and Charmaine G on Whack-A-Mole.